Hey guys, welcome back to RMA Garage. We have a special treat with you today. We have a special treat with you. Hey guys, welcome back to RMA Garage. We have a special video for you today. My wife, Tracy, is joining me. Thank you for coming out and seeing us.
Oh, you're welcome.
To the basement.
Yes, it's a long travel.
Long travel. Today we are going to be answering some questions that you guys have been posting on the website. We have answered them in small scale, really, just a few sentences and trying to get our point across, but they were so interesting to us that we thought maybe we would do a little bit more in-depth answering of these questions. So we're just going to get right into it. Okay, the first question that we got was, with all the changes we made to the RV, knowing what we know now, would we still have purchased the Coachman 260DS?
Yes, it's a perfect size, especially with 2 adults and 2 adult children, so you don't feel cramped. I wouldn't want anything larger for driving it around. And even if I bought something else, I would still wind up making changes to it and making it the way that we would want it for us.
Yeah, I like the length of it. It's 29 feet, and the other models that were, 32, 34 foot long, the feet that you take away with the 29 footer, it is so much easier to maneuver, and it's just the perfect size. It's not too big, and we definitely would have gotten it, but the changes that we made, I think, were more of comfort and desire and of hobby.
Organization,
yes. I mean, it became a hobby because we enjoyed it, but when we were sitting in the RV, we thought, gee, that we could make it better, and we could do this and do that. So we'd still make the changes, and we still would have bought it. Coachman's been good, and it's taken care of us.
And the size is perfect for fitting in the driveway.
Yes, it barely fits in the driveway. In fact, we had a guy from the city with a tape measure come out. My neighbor told me when I was at work, and he said he stopped, he measured it, and then he drove away, and we never heard anything since. So I think they were just checking. All right. Second question. What is a good size RV for 2 people who are active and carrying e-bikes? Do you think ours is a good size, or do you think maybe smaller?
Well, I think it's a good size. You would probably have different options of bike carriers depending on where the axle is, with where the hitch is, and whether it's been welded on or if it's actually part of the frame. You still need to get an RV approved, but you'd have more options, I think, with bike carriers, especially with the e-bikes being a little heavier.
Right.
I think if you go to the smaller RVs, ones that are on the Sprinter chassis, depending on where you want to go, being very active, I think you could get into different locations having a smaller RV.
Yeah, definitely. The parks, you can park it. It only takes up 2 spots instead of possibly 4, because when we park in some places, we take up 4 parking places, so nobody parks right next to us, because then we can't swing out. A smaller chassis definitely would allow you to get into better places, and you wouldn't necessarily have to pull a car.
Yes, and if you go mountain biking, depending on where you go, they don't always have parking areas, and you're kind of parking on the side of the roads and such. And if you had a smaller RV, you would have a better chance at parking, and again, not having somebody bump into you, and just easier to get in and out of places.
Yeah, so we're talking like still a Class C, but a smaller chassis, and maybe even a Class B if you really wanted to. But we've looked into Bs, and we think they're just a little bit too small.
And if you go mountain biking with the e-bikes and you really want to shower well, I wouldn't go with a Class B, because those are usually the wet baths, and I wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
I would want everything separate. But you can get the really nice ones on, like, I think it's the Mercedes.
Yeah.
Or a Sprinter chassis, where it's just a little more narrow and a little shorter. And now they have so many changes in them with Murphy beds and such that, you can still have a nice living area and be able to pull down the bed real quick at night and put it back up in the morning, and it's like you have the entire RV as living space and not a bedroom.
Right.
So.
Well, we're going to segue into our next question, was what RV do you guys plan on buying in the future? And that is basically what we're looking at, is a smaller Class C for just the 2 of us. And why don't you go ahead and elaborate more on the bed situation, because of the lady that we saw in North Carolina, that they didn't want a large bedroom. They wanted a quick bed that they could fold up for more room.
Yeah, when you're in your RV for the night, of course you're asleep. So it really doesn't matter how much room you have as long as you have a decent sized bed. But during the day, do you really want to have your extra space wasted on a bedroom? So we went to the RV show in Hershey, what was it, in 19, I think it was.
Yep, 2019.
And a lot of the smaller things on the Sprinter chassis had the Murphy beds in it, where you had the entire living space. All you had to do was like fold down the couch. Out of the wall comes the bed. So you have all the living space. The one lady that I wound up talking to one time down in South Carolina, they had probably like the View or the Navion. I don't remember what it was, but it was one where it was a sleeping quarters over the cab. And that was the only sleeping quarters. But she slept up above because she was a smaller individual, and her husband used the couch because it was a nice sized couch because they had more living space than sleeping space, which is really what you want during the day. If it's a rainy day and you're stuck inside, you want the more space.
Right.
If it's beautiful, you're going to be outside anyways.
Yeah.
So I'm looking more at an RV with a living space and something that can quickly be converted into the sleeping area.
And you're looking at, if we stick with Coachman, you're looking at either a Crosstrek or a Prism, and we definitely like the over the cab bed. I like that because it definitely puts it up out of the way, and plus you can store things up there and you can throw all your blankets. And then Winnebago has the View or the Navion, and as a guy that likes mechanics and cars and things, I don't know if I'd want the Mercedes because you have to go to a Mercedes-Benz dealership, but they run good. Heard a lot of good things about them. So you have Ford, you have Chevy, and you have, of course, the Sprinter Mercedes chassis. So I don't know. We're still kind of up in the air with what we would want there, but it's definitely a smaller size to get in and out of places, national parks, parking on the side of the road, and especially even if you're just driving it into a shopping center or into a tighter place, it's definitely a lot easier. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to it a little bit smaller because then things are a little bit easier to maintain. Yeah.
I think having the smaller size too, you're going to take it to more little things. Like if you decide to go biking and you want to go just a couple hours away, you can bike all day, spend the night, and then ride home. And it just being smaller, I think it takes less effort to get it ready and going.
Right.
And you don't have to be concerned with what's the parking going to be like and everything.
Right.
But when I was thinking about the over the bed or over the...
Bed over the cab.
Could think a cab. Bed over the cab. We do use ours a good bit for storage during the day, just throwing pillows up there and the cushions and stuff. But also, if you can find one that has like the Murphy bed and the bed over the cab, then you're able to take other people with you.
Yeah.
If it's something quick or who knows, grandchildren down the road, and you can take them. But when I see the ones that have the TV and cabinets built over the cab, it just looks like so much wasted space. Yeah. And then where the bed is, where the couch would go, it doesn't face the television. So you'd be sitting like this to watch TV.
Yeah, getting a crooked neck. Yeah, it doesn't make a good placement.
No, so I'd rather have the open area than cabinets with walls and a TV, and you're just losing space.
Yeah, agreed.
Space is prime in an RV.
Yes, more room, and of course the captain's chairs in the front would spin around, and that would definitely, you want to make sure you get one where both seats swivel, because that adds definitely extra space for sitting, and it's not a wasted cab space at that. So, all right. So, next question: do you always stay at campgrounds?
No.
Or what about truck stops and rest stops? Now, that was the question, but we like to stay at places where you wouldn't think you would be able to. A Walmart, a Cracker Barrel, Sam's Club. Basically, we use the app RV Parky, and we look for places that we can stay along the way. So we go down to Florida every once in a while, and we don't want to stay at a campground because it's just too much. You're checking in, you don't really need all the hookups, and it's just an added expense. So we find a friendly place and an approved place, because RV Parky does list the Cracker Barrels, which are very popular. That's really where we've been staying mostly, is Cracker Barrels. But we always go in and ask, can we park overnight? We don't want to be an inconvenience, or do something where they wouldn't want us to stay. Walmart's, we've been seeing a lot of no overnight parking signs recently. That's been kind of a growing trend. I don't know why, but they have, some Walmarts don't let you park. Sam's Clubs, I don't think we really...
Sam's Clubs usually can. You also have
Yeah.
Cabela's and Costco's. The best thing is to find some place that is not open 24 hours.
Yes.
But there are employees there 24 hours, and they have cameras in the parking lot.
Right.
Because when they're closed, then you don't get all the traffic from customers coming in, which can be quite noisy. So anymore, we tend to look for Cracker Barrels or Sam's Clubs.
Right.
Sometimes you can even find a Lowe's. I don't really care to stay at a truck stop or a rest stop. To me, a rest stop is too easy access for somebody. You can quickly get off and back on the expressway if they were to do something to your RV. Truck stops, you're going to get the noise from the trucks idling all night,
Yes.
trucks coming and going. So I do love the RV Parky app. I can use it at home when we're kind of planning our route for different trips to see if I can find places that we'd want to stay at, how far we'd have to drive for a place. And then I'll just even use it on the road if we change our trip, because it'll just pull up your location and it'll show you all the possibilities you have. You can click on the one.
Yep.
Tells you if you can stay there. And
A phone number.
Yeah, people can even leave reviews.
Yep.
So, and a lot of times they'll tell you, yep, great place. You can park on this side of the building. And so I really like the RV Parky. And just for boondocking, that's great. As far as if we're actually spending a night or a couple nights somewhere, I do like the campgrounds. A lot of times it's just even the company that's there.
Yeah.
You get to meet other people. You get to see what other people have done with their RVs. And you kind of get ideas that way.
Right.
So if it's more than just an overnight, a boondock, I prefer the campgrounds. But just boondocking, don't bother with a campground. You're just wasting your money.
Plus, if you go to the campground, the kids can exercise. You really don't want your kids riding around in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So if you are going to get there, before dark, then that gives them 2 or 3 hours to kind of spend some energy that they've penned up, driving in the RV all day. So, Okay, so this one is related to some maintenance. Do you have a spare tire? If yes, where do you store it? Now, this question came up that they asked, do you have a spare tire? And we do not have a spare tire. Our RV did not come with a spare tire. And there was another question is, there was something in the basement where it looked like a tire could fit. Well, there is no space for a spare tire in our RV, nor do we have one. Now, it's kind of posed an interesting question because, there was different sizes of tires. They brought up a good point where the tire size of a friend of theirs, they had to wait for almost 2 days to get a tire that would fit their RV. So it's something that I'm going to be looking into. I never really gave it much thought. Even if I don't carry an entire wheel and tire, I may just get a tire. So if there is a problem and it can't be repaired, at least I have a tire that I can give the repair shop that they can, mount a brand new tire on it. So I'll be looking into this. It's definitely an interesting question. So look for a video on that real soon. We also got a question is how much did our suspension modifications cost? Now, this was more or less a lump sum for parts was $3,500 roughly. I did the replacement of the shocks because we have levelers on our RV, and I was able to jack up the RV. So I did the shocks myself. I did the sway bars myself.
And the sumo springs.
And the sumo springs, which we got a little later. The sumo springs were a little bit more tricky. Doing it all at once would have definitely been a better idea. What we didn't have done was the installation of the steering stabilizer because I just didn't feel comfortable with mounting that to a suspension steering. I wasn't comfortable with that. So we went to a truck place that worked on large trucks, box vans, and they installed the steering stabilizer, and we got a 4-wheel alignment, which I highly recommend anybody buying a brand spanking new RV, go and get it aligned. It was pulling, and there was a lot of things that it would do, but once we got it aligned, it ran and it drove perfectly. That cost about $400
for all of it. For them installing in the alignment.
Yeah, installing in the alignment was around $400. And then, how much did the other modifications cost to the RV? That's all the little, the paper, the window blinds, all the things. I guesstimate about $800 over the course of a year. I mean, so it wasn't like we just went out and bought $800 worth of stuff. But what you don't see and what you can't put a cost to are all the weekends and all the days that we spend working on it. So $800 doesn't sound like a lot, but there is a lot of time invested in trying to make it work and kind of coming up with different ideas. So not a lot of money, but as we've said before, this kind of became a hobby to us. It was fun to try and make it better. It wasn't just, okay, we're going to pull the RV out, we're going to take it somewhere, we're going to come back and put a cover over it. So it was something that, you kind of get into after a while, and that's what kind of spawned all these modifications. This was kind of interesting. Where do we store dishes, mugs, and glasses?
Dishes... I use paper plates and paper bowls.
Yes.
I'm on vacation. I have no desire to do a bunch of dishes.
Now, if you're long term or you're, going to be driving, for weeks, months, or years, then yeah, that's a good idea. But we're always on vacation.
Glasses, we use the plastic cups, throw them away. A lot of times, though, we're using bottled water, so we don't even need the glasses.
Yeah.
But as far as mugs, underneath the sink is a huge cabinet where I keep all the paper plates. Large dinner plates, like dessert plates, and bowls, and the plastic cups. And then I have 4 glass mugs that I took old socks that were clean and slipped them over it, and they just fit in the cabinet. They don't bang into each other. The socks around them keep them quiet.
Yes.
So again, they don't bang into each other or just bang in the cabinet. And then underneath that is where we have all the water bottles.
Yes.
Now, I do use real silverware. I am not using plasticware.
No, we tried that, and after a couple of snap forks and fishing out the splines into the spaghetti, we said no.
Yeah. But I found a great silverware tray at the Container Store, and it fits in a drawer. It's only about this wide, and it stacks all the silverware like this, so it does not take up room. And then when we're traveling, I just take some foam and stick it in next to the silverware, and it keeps that from rattling.
Yeah.
So, paper plates. And the neat thing, too, about the paper plates, when you go to do your campfire at night, just take the used paper plates out,
yes.
and there you have your starter for your fire. So, no newspapers.
We've done that.
Yeah, no newspapers to have to carry around and crumple up, and just use the paper plates. It works great.
It works great. All right. Now, this one was just a quick... where are the low points, where the low point drains in the RV? And this is kind of unique because when you open up the back trunk, and I'll post a picture of this, there's a little plastic door with 2 little screws in it. And I don't know if ours used to say drain, and it would say drain point, but it wouldn't really kind of give you any indication that you're allowed to take the panel off. Since we made that modification to installing the plywood, it really doesn't say anything now, but it's an odd place to put it. It's kind of underneath everything, and you really got to struggle to get those 3 drains open and closed. But that one's been a very popular question because sometimes the dealers don't really show you guys and even us where everything is and how everything is done. Now, where we bought our RV, I think they spent an hour and a half with us, so they did go. But I had a lady said that you've been more helpful than the dealership. So that's what we're trying to do, is just educate and kind of give you guys some good ideas. Have we ever towed a car?
No.
No, we have not towed a car. We have looked at RVing as soon as we get in the RV, we are on vacation. So we're driving, we're enjoying the space. You know, the kids can get a snack, they can watch TV, they can use the restroom. We don't have to stop or hurry to the next rest stop. So we never felt the need to pull a car because our vacations are going to last about a week or two, maybe 3 if we go out west again. But we don't want the added weight, the pulling, the extra gas, unless we're planning on staying for a very long time and we want a regular car. I know we've rented cars before, but we have never towed. We have the ability to. Of course, the Coachman does have a good engine. It has a good tow package. It's got the hitch and it's already wired up for a trailer. So it's good, but we have never done it. So we don't really know how well it pulls, but we do know from talking to other people that it's definitely capable.
Yeah, the only 2 times we have used a rental car, one was in San Francisco, and we were about a mile away from a car rental. So
Yes.
my husband and son just walked down and picked up the car. And then the other place was down in South Carolina. We stayed at a KOA, which I highly recommend KOAs.
Yes.
We called Enterprise. They came over and picked us up and went back and took care of everything. And then we had a car for the week.
Yeah, the funny story with that is that the guy picked us up. Usually they drive the car that you're going to drive to the place to pick you up.
Yeah.
He came in a Dodge Charger, and I'm like, oh! I was so excited. And then they gave us a little Jeep. It was a base model. I was bummed, but it was his personal car. Oh, well. Okay, so with towing, have you ever used a motorcycle hitch carrier? And the answer to that is no. And I'm going to post some pictures, and I'm working on a video on kind of how to describe what I'm about to say. So when you buy an RV that is on a Class C chassis, the chassis is made for a box truck. It's really a purpose built. It's not really made for RVs. The RV place, the Coachman or Winnebago, they take that chassis, which if you ever see them going down the road, there's a cab and then 2 long metal sticks that go back. And usually they're piggybacked. Well, they get to the RV place and then they build around it. Well, I was on a forum and a guy cautioned everybody on the forum that says you have to be careful because the chassis has welded extensions on the back. I'm going to show you a picture here. Ours has a welded extension. It's 30 inches long and it is welded. It's a C-shape frame body and it is welded around the C, and there's also a plate. And they said that you have to be careful not to exceed the tongue weight of 500 pounds because it could crack the welds. And I was a little skeptical when I went underneath and I saw the plates welded, and I thought, I really don't want to mess with that because if you crack the frame, now you're into welding and you're into what else cracked. So we've never gone down that road of motorcycle hitch carrier. Now we have dirt bikes. We decided to have a trailer instead of the 2-bike rack because the racks are rated for I think 600 pounds, and everything on the back of RV with the 2 dirt bikes would be around probably 600 pounds. That's including the weight of the rack. Well, that's 100 pounds over the tongue weight, so I decided not to do that. So you have to be careful. I would think 1 bike is fine as long as the total weight of the motorcycle, the rack, and anything else that's on the back there. If you put a bottle of gasoline or something, as long as it's not over 500 pounds. It also has to be rated for an RV, and it also has to be secured, and it doesn't wiggle and jiggle and everything like that.
Well, the reason for it to be rated for an RV is because of where the axle is. Depending on where the axle is as to where the carrier is, you could have something on the back of your RV that is just bouncing like crazy, and you could wind up with a problem.
Right.
So there were a lot of bike carriers that I wanted to buy, but when learning about that, I don't really want to lose my bike off the back.
No.
So we went with an RV approved. So
which we're going to be doing a video on that when it warms up.
And I actually called because we were looking at getting a carrier to put a scooter on the back.
Yes.
And it can be tough trying to find a scooter that is approved just because of the location of the axle and the torque that's going to be taking place.
It's the bouncing. Basically, what happens is when the RV goes down the road, it kind of porpoises a little bit. I mean, you can tune that out with the suspension modifications, but it's still going to bounce a little bit. And that rack is going to bounce. And as that bouncing occurs, it stresses the metal every cycle. And if you don't have a hitch carrier, a bicycle rack, a motorcycle rack that is made to absorb that and to counteract that with just better welds, thicker metal, and face plates, anti-wobble mechanisms, things can break. So you have to make sure that you do your homework, especially when you're carrying something on the back of the RV.
So even if you don't own an RV and you're considering one, keep the RV and the hitch and any carriers you're interested in mind so that you can compare and see what would work before you go and buy and find out that you can't do what you wanted to do.
Absolutely. All right, well, that's it for the questions. Now we're going to give you an idea of what videos that we're going to be coming out with. It is wintertime. It is super cold. We have about 8 inches of snow on the ground. So our RV is not buried, but there is quite a bit of snow around it. And even to bring it back right now would be horrible. So we're going to be doing some videos like this, kind of talking about some things and sharing some comments. And as we get more questions, we're certainly going to answer them. This video, leave comments below. All the questions, I love them. It gives us ideas. It gave us the idea of the spare tire. So we're going to be doing more videos on, somebody asked us to do a video on de-winterizing, which is not really difficult, but we're going to follow those steps and show you how we do that. We're also going to do a video of the cover that's on it right now, giving you, I think we've had the cover now for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And it's held up great. I'll give you the manufacturer and how we use it and take some pictures of it installed. We do need to buy some new tires for our RV. And this was kind of a sore thing because of COVID, we didn't go anywhere. And we didn't realize that when your RV sits for a long time, you can develop flat spots. And we have flat spots on our tires. So when we go down the road and go over 55 miles an hour, the whole coach shakes. And we thought it was suspension. We thought it was wheel balance problem. But one of the dealers showed us that the wheels are flat. So we are going to have to buy six new tires. So stay tuned for a video on that. We're definitely going to go over the spare tire and how we're going to handle that. We do have a LevelMate Pro, which is a device that we use to help us find a flat spot in the RV parky places that we find along the way.
It's the flattest spot you can find.
Yes, as much as possible. At least you can give yourself a chance.
Plus, once you do level the RV or you're somewhere to stay, even though it's an automatic leveling system, it doesn't guarantee that it's perfect.
Right.
And with the LevelMate, and you can self-adjust just hitting a button, lifting one spot or whatever, you can just make it so much nicer in the RV so that the doors aren't closing by themselves and stuff. So it's good for that too.
Yes. We'll show you what kind of air compressor we use when we're driving around. When we're staying, you definitely want to check the air pressure in the tires. And regular gas stations and places don't sometimes have the air pressure to get up to the pressure that we need for our RV. We'll be going to be talking about the bike rack that we bought. We're going to be talking in more depth about some of the modifications that we did. We've been getting a lot of questions about those. We are going to be doing more modifications, if you can imagine that. We're going to be doing some things this year. We're going to be showing you some of the skylights. We bought heavier duty skylights in the RV. And we bought ones that don't let light through, which is kind of a unique situation for us, but we'll tell you why and give you the differences. We're also going to be changing the oil in the generator. It's not that hard, but hey, when I was looking at buying an RV, I didn't even know how to dump. And I watched probably 6 videos on how to dump the black tank because I was so afraid of like getting it all over me and making a mistake. So yeah, it's the simple things of just the familiarity with it. It's not hard. It's just watching somebody else do it a couple times. And speaking of which, there is one little modification that I did to my dump hose that I'll show you guys to make it a little bit easier. It's kind of silly, but we'll be showing you that. And again, if you guys have any questions, leave comments below. Ask all the questions that you want. This is how we got into RVing, is watching other videos and gleaning from other people. And we're just giving back. We realize that there aren't a lot of videos about our coach and about Class Cs. So we're just basically getting in line and putting out more videos so you guys can learn. So all right, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click the like and subscribe button. Don't forget to click on the bell because more RV videos are on their way. Thank you, Tracy, for your input.
You're welcome.
We had a great time, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, welcome back to RMA Garage. We have a special treat with you today. We have a special treat with you. The very first thing I said. Okay. All right. Okay.
I'll try not to slurp. I don't know, you're infringing on
legs
on
almost
me.
legs almost touching.
Don't hit me with your elbow.